The air tastes of wet limestone and burnt beeswax, thick enough to chew. Edmund steps into the chamber without crossing a threshold. There is no doorframe, only the sudden absence of space behind him, as if the world folded inward when he moved past it. His bare feet touch cold obsidian, and then the floor hums beneath him. Each step releases a sigh from the stone, old enough to remember the weight of continents shifting. Above him, the hollow bell tongue hangs motionless, its clapper swallowed whole. The shaft is carved from bone-white coral, lines of silver threaded through its core like capillaries holding back blood. It waits. To strike it is to erase the striker. Sera sits in the center, cross-legged on the altar, spine straight as a snapped harp string. Her skin is pale. She wears no garment save a tunic woven from layered parchment, sheets upon sheets of his handwriting, pressed and fused into translucent silk, each line still legible, though faded at the edges. I will remember you, even if I forget my name. We swore beneath the salt-stained sky. Do not wake me unless you are willing to vanish. The ink has bled into her flesh, her arms, her thighs, the curve of her neck, all mapped in script only he remembers writing. Behind her, the window pane embedded in the floor reflects nothing, only a hollow, the ghost shape of a woman kneeling, hands pressed against glass as if pressing through to something beyond. Her face is there but unseen. Her eyes are closed. She does not blink. Edmund lifts his hand. His knuckles graze the air between him and the altar. The air resists. It pulls at his bones and slow and sure. He exhales, and the exhalation becomes a thread, thin as old paper, stretching toward her. The harp string, unstrung, frayed at both ends, extends from her left wrist into the ceiling, vanishing into blackness. It trembles with each pulse of his breath. The string remembers the touch of her fingers, and now it remembers him. He walks forward. The rings above descend, one after another, silent as falling snow. Stone meets stone. 12 concentric circles form a mandala around Sera's feet. The space within tightens. The air thickens further, pressing against his ribs, until each inhale requires the effort of lifting a door from its hinges. His shadow does not fall on the floor. It falls inside him. He looks down. Beneath the skin of his forearm, lines of script begin to glow. Memory made visible. She laughed when the tide took our boat. She slept with her left hand curled around my thumb. The day she learned to sing was the day I stopped remembering how to cry. He does not recall writing these. A gust moves through the chamber. From within the walls themselves, the parchments on Sera's tunic shiver. She does not stir. He reaches for her. His fingers hover an inch above her shoulder. He feels the heat of her skin, the same warmth he used to kiss each morning before dawn. He remembers that heat. But now, in this silence, he realizes she no longer remembers it at all. The keyhole, it is not on a door. It is on her. A rusted aperture shaped like an eye, gouged into the center of her sternum, just beneath the collarbone where the first parchment layer had been fused. The teeth are jagged, uneven, forged from ancient iron, and what might have once been a child's tooth, it has not turned in 13 years. It was never meant to be opened from without. He knows this now, as truth carved into his marrow. She does not wait for him to rescue her. She waits for him to become the key. His breath steadies. No prayer forms in his mind. No plea rises. Only a single fact. To love is to transgress, and to transgress is to vanish. He lifts his hand toward the eye of the keyhole itself. He brings his forehead against it. The metal is colder than ice, damp with salt and something darker, time sweat. He presses harder. Bone meets ridge. Pain does not come as shock. It comes as recognition. A door opening from inside. His skull cracks open, slowly, like old parchment splitting along its folds. The skin above his brow peels backward, unfolding, and beneath it, layer upon layer of text emerges. Every vow he ever whispered to her. Every night they shared a silence too heavy for words. Every morning he woke with the ghost of her voice still clinging to his tongue. His blood drips, dark, viscous, tasting of ocean and rust, into the keyhole's teeth. The chamber exhales. A soundless wave rushes outward. The floating rings shudder once, then sink fully into place, sealing Sera within their circle. The harp string above her vibrates for the first time. It sings in frequencies older than language, a tone only the harassed can hear. Edmund does not scream. He sinks to his knees. His collarbone splits, vertically, from sternum to jawline. It peels as if by invisible hands, and skin curling backward like dried seaweed pulled from tide pool stone. Beneath it, in the architecture of his memory, is laid bare. Ribs carved with names, lungs lined with dates, art wrapped in cursive that reads, "You were my beginning and my only ending." He does not see himself anymore. In the salt-stained window pane below, where for 13 years only her hollow had been reflected, the glass fractures along its center. A face appears, Sera's, eyes open, lips parted. Her reflection is no longer ghostly, no longer faint, solid, alive. She sees herself as she was, 7 years old, hair wild with salt, cheeks stained by tears that never dried. The same eyes that watched him leave every morning before dawn. She blinks, and in that blink, the parchment tunic around her begins to dissolve into smoke, rising slowly upward. Each sheet peels loose, curling like petals, lifting toward the ceiling where the harp string vanishes. The hollow bell tongue above her shudders, then falls. It lands with a quiet thud upon the obsidian altar, and still no sound, only the air, now thinner, lighter, carrying fragments of parchment upward. "I loved you. I forgot you so you would live. Forgive me for becoming the space between your breaths." Sera rises. No force lifts her. She stands as if the floor had been waiting for this moment all along. Her bare feet touch stone. The salt-stained window pane now reflects her full form. Wet-limbed, sun-warmed, real. For the first time since childhood, she sees herself whole. She turns, looks directly at Edmund, as if she had been waiting all along. Not for him to find her, but for him to become what he had always been. A memory that refused to fade, and even when erased, he cannot speak. His mouth is open. His tongue, hollowed, translucent, is shaped like the bell tongue above them, its clapper now embedded in his throat. Sera reaches out. Her fingers brush the split along his sternum, and when she does, the final layer of parchment on her tunic dissolves into mist, and from within the hollow space where it had been, a name is revealed, stitched into her skin with threads of bone-white silver. Edmund. She turns back to the window pane. Her reflection shifts one last time, becoming both. Her body, his shadow merging seamlessly behind her, two silhouettes now grown from one root. The harp string pulses once more, then rises in a spiral, carrying the final fragments of parchment. The last words he ever wrote to her, toward the dark above. Each scrap glows briefly before vanishing. "I am no longer your husband, no longer your father, no longer Edmund. I am what remains after love has paid its debt." The bell tongue lies still on the altar. Its clapper, once lodged in its throat, now rests within his own chest. The air grows lighter, cooler. The metallic tang of wet limestone lingers, but beneath it, something new. The scent of salt-dried skin and old beeswax, faint as a whisper left behind by someone who never left at all. Sera closes her eyes again. Her hands rest at her sides, no longer searching for a face in glass, no longer waiting to be remembered. She is simply here, and beside her, the space where Edmund knelt still holds the imprint of his knees, the curve of his spine, the hollow of his breath. But when the next wind moves through the chamber, there is no one there. Only silence, and the slow, silent rise of a single new parchment, drifting down from above, unwritten, unmarked, waiting to be filled.